Ladies and gentlemen, now hosting the RizzoCast, put your hands together for Steven Risotto!
What is going on, everybody, and welcome. This is episode number 96 of RizzoCast. I'm Steven Risotto, and today I decided to switch things up a little bit. In case you follow me on Twitter, I sent out a tweet a few days ago stating, hey, attention all baseball fans. If you want to come on the podcast and talk some baseball, talk about how you got involved in baseball, favorite baseball moments, favorite baseball players, why you love the game, let's get you on the podcast and let's share your story. Because at the end of the day, baseball is in a spot right now where you could make the argument that the other two sports are really popular, even more popular than baseball. And the NFL and the NBA have gotten a lot of the hype in the national spotlight, and baseball is kind of starting to come back a little bit with some of the great young players in the game today. And I figured let's shed a light on the baseball fan that has been a baseball fan for a long time, that has a really unique story. Not a lot of podcasts do this. Not a lot of podcasts give fans the opportunity to kind of run the show. And that's something that I was looking forward to doing this time around and switching it up a little bit. So there's going to be about 10 parts to this thing, a few interviews in each part. Today, you guys are going to be introduced to Nick, Spencer, and Matt, three baseball fans from around the United States, and they're going to share their story on how they got into the game. Enjoy more RizzoCast content coming through. This is going to kind of be sort of a mix and match with my original content, the interviews that I do. There's going to be kind of every other upload is going to be something related to the baseball fan. So this is the first episode, and hope you guys enjoy. Subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and enjoy. Check out what the baseball fan has to say, because I'm giving them a voice on RizzoCast. Take a listen. All right, we are back with Nick Crane from the East Bay. Nick, how you doing? Welcome. Thank you for doing this.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So I really wanted to ask baseball fans a few questions about how they got into the game, and you were the first one that answered. So congratulations. And, you know, we're going to start off pretty big picture item here, but how did you kind of get into baseball? How did you start following the game?
Just started following the game. I feel like most people, my dad was a massive baseball fan. He was born and raised in San Francisco, so he grew up a massive Giants fan from his dad. And then obviously same with me, just kind of started going to games at Candlestick, but mostly started going to games once they moved to, now it's Oracle, started Pac Bell, the 5,000 names that stadium has had. So 1999 is when they moved. So I was 9 or 10 when I really started going games often. I know my dad had a small season ticket package, so started going to games often. And I think that, coupled with my mom had some family that lives down in Arizona, so we'd go to spring training every year. So it's kind of a combination of going to spring training every year and then coming back home and going to Giants games, kind of how it kicked off.
Now, we're recording this actually the day after the NBA All-Star game, and we saw the energy that happened there, and we always hear about the energy in football, and even some select people like hockey. But what kind of separates baseball from the rest of those three sports, or maybe more? So what kind of makes baseball unique to you?
I think I always come back to the everyday aspect of it. It's a grind. But I think, obviously a fan, we're not going through the grind, but I think it's a constant thing. There's always something new is happening the next day. I think as a fan, I like that because you're not really sulking about what happened the day before, because there's a brand new game to kind of get you excited about. I also like the aspect of, at least compared to basketball or at least definitely compared to basketball, being outdoors, day baseball. It's something you don't really get with basketball as much. So I think that's kind of what makes it unique, at least for me.
Yeah, football, you got to wait a week until.
Yeah, exactly. You have to wait Sunday. And if I'm a big football fan, so you lose on Sunday, you're waiting 7 days of just like misery because they're all the talking points all week are about what happened and your team lost. So at least with baseball, it's easy to kind of just, the Giants lose, new game tomorrow.
Yeah, new game tomorrow. Exactly. And you mentioned kind of growing up a Candlestick and, being a big Giants fan, you have to have a favorite player. So if they're, all those years of watching baseball for you, who is that one guy that kind of stands out?
So I'd say my two favorites growing up, obviously Giants fan Bonds, Barry Bonds is my favorite of all time. My second growing up, I was a big Jason Giambi fan. I know this isn't probably the case for all Giants fans, but I wouldn't call myself an A's fan, but I like the A's. I grew up going to A's games probably as often as I went to Giants games. So I enjoyed watching them. I was a massive Jason Giambi fan. Funny story, if you don't mind me telling you, kind of a unique story. You asked earlier what got me into baseball. I was fortunate enough to be a bat boy at spring training twice as a kid, once for the A's. So I think that's kind of why. So I got to obviously meet some of the players, and I kind of gravitated towards Giambi, who was obviously winning MVPs and everything. So I think that's kind of what gravitated me towards him. So I'd say growing up, definitely him and Bonds were my two favorite players.
So you were a bat boy. So we have to hear more about that.
Yeah.
How was that experience? Do you remember it at all?
I do a little bit. Yeah. So I was 10 and 11. It was actually back-to-back years, which I don't think they do it anymore. I always like to say, I feel like spring training now is so big time and so popular, which I don't think it was the case when I was a kid. So what they did, and I was lucky, I remember, because like they still do now where kids go down, you line up along the baselines to try and get autographs. So I was at spring training and a guy who works for the A's came out and was literally just asking if any kids wanted to be bat boy for the day. And I got picked. I raised my hand, got picked. They gave me a helmet, gave me a jersey, and you're essentially bat boy for the day, running stuff out to the on-deck circle, bringing it back. I'd be sitting in the dugout, just kind of, wide-eyed 10-year-old, just like trying to figure out what was going on. So I got to do that with the A's one year. And then the next year, the same guy still worked for the A's, recognized me and asked me if I wanted to be bat boy for the Mariners, who they were playing that day. And ironically, I think it was 2001, which was Ichiro's first year. So the paparazzi around Seattle was insane. Yeah. So again, I was sitting in the dugout, just like wide-eyed, just like around all these baseball players that were like my heroes. So I think that experience really kind of connected me with baseball, and I'm still an avid spring training fan. My parents live in Arizona, so we usually go down there every spring, catch a couple games.
God, the times were so much different back then. Nowadays, you probably have to fill out like a liability form to even be considered, and you have to be a different age, and so.
Yeah, I think about that all the time because baseball is not as popular as it was when I was younger. I know you're obviously younger than I am, and you're obviously a huge baseball fan, but I know that's a huge talking point around the game is, getting the youth into it. And I feel like access to players is big part of that. And with spring training, like I said, I don't think it's like this anymore, but I know I would always go to the A's practice facility and the Cubs practice facility, which essentially was just like 5 fields, and players are on different fields and the fans are just like in between fields, so you're watching Sammy Sosa take batting practice, and then he walks literally right past you to go to the next field to take outfield practice. So like, there's no way you cannot be even if you're like a casual baseball fan as a kid, it can't not turn you into a massive baseball fan. And the people you see on TV are literally walking right past you as they practice. And I feel like that access isn't there anymore when you go to spring training. Cause like you said, now it's huge, tickets are super expensive. Yeah. Tickets are super expensive. No worries. Tickets are super expensive and there's millions of people who go now. So it's just impossible to get the same access that you did when, back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And I think even if it's just, random number 76 walking by a young kid that could do a lot of, that's all it takes. So you're at these spring training games and you're at these Giants games, and I bring food in a lot of times. If I'm working, then I'll, go and get something. But what are you getting in terms of food at the ballpark? Because this could really upset people, Nick. You're going. I probably shouldn't ask this, or I probably shouldn't keep asking this, because a lot of people have strong opinions about food, especially at the ballpark. So, what is Nick Crane's food of choice at a baseball game?
So I think my answer won't. I hope it won't upset anybody. I don't think it will. I'm very traditional. The hot dog and a drink. I'm very straightforward when I go to a baseball game. Every once in a while, I'll dip into, garlic fries. Oracle Park has a bunch of crazy stuff. The cha-cha bowls, the crab sandwiches. Every once in a while, I'll dabble into that. But every game I go to, I need to get a hot dog. I need to get a drink. I'd say that's my go-to, which I think is pretty traditional. So I don't think that should upset anybody, unless people think it's too boring. But I keep it simple.
Oh, so sandwich. No, I'm just kidding. We won't get into
now that would upset people if we have that discussion.
That would upset people, and I don't know the answer, and I don't think anybody really knows the answer. I don't really think anybody cares, but a lot of people do. No.
Me neither.
So in terms of baseball movies and watching MLB Network during this lockout, I've had a chance to see a lot of them, like multiple times, and at this point it's frustrating, but I've seen a good amount of them. So what is your favorite baseball movie?
Oh, geez, that's tough. I like Major League. I like all the Major League movies. I'd say that's probably the one that I can watch the most often, over and over again when it's on. Let's see, what other baseball movies? I remember one of the ones that I first remember watching. I was probably too young to be watching it, but 61, when that came out, I remember being a big fan of that, and I still like watching that. I feel like it's kind of not mentioned enough, I feel like, when I hear about baseball movies. I don't know, maybe because I think it came out as like an HBO special, so it wasn't like a traditional like theater movie. But big fan of 61. So I'd say 61 and Major League are probably the two ones that I can kind of watch over and over again.
Yeah, good choices. And I have a feeling those two are going to come up a lot here.
Yeah.
Now let's end it on this. Okay. Favorite baseball moment. You've been a fan for a while. A lot of things have happened. What is kind of the one that sticks out to you?
So I think obviously as a Giants fan, winning the 2010 World Series is one I don't think will ever be topped. Going one that's a little less cliche as a World Series championship. I'd probably say the most excited I've ever gotten for a moment that wasn't World Series related. It was still playoff related, but I'd say the Michael Morse home run. I believe it was 2012. I don't remember what game it was of the NLCS, I believe, against the Cardinals. But that game tying home run, I remember going absolutely berserk. I was at my girlfriend's house, who's now my wife. We were watching it. I remember just like losing my absolute mind. So I'd say that's my favorite non-World Series moment, because obviously World Series moments are always the best. So
yeah, and everybody always remembers Joe Buck's call, Morse off the bench.
Yeah.
Tie game is impressive. Yeah. And he was
right into that little walkway in left field where there's no fans. It just, you see the ball just kind of bouncing, and everyone kind of losing their mind. But other than that, 2010, I mean, we don't need to go into it. Obviously, Giants fans know. I think my special connection, if I know you said you wanted to end it, my special connection to 2010 world, obviously that whole year, is I was in college, and I remember that summer I took summer classes in college. I went to college up in Washington. So the college town is essentially dead because most of the students are back home. I was there, not having much to do, didn't have cable or MLB TV to watch Giants games. So every day I'd literally be sitting on my couch with the game day, MLB game day up. And that's how I watched like every game that summer, just stressing over in-play runs, in-play outs, just stressing over and over. So I feel like it was a unique way to follow this and not being able to watch on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember always tracking that in school and tracking the, it would say, if nobody's on and it says in play runs, a guy just went deep. You would always have to, because it's always like a 30 seconds after the actual result pops up. It'd be cool to do that for a game. Just run the MLB game day and, punch
it was stressful. It's worse when they enter it wrong the first time and like it'll say in play outs and you're like, yes, inning over, and they change it to in play no out. You're just like, oh my goodness, what? But yeah, it was stressful being, I was like 20 years old, just on my couch, just watching every Giants game that way over the summer, and just stressing because you can't watch it. So you're just like sitting there waiting for it to refresh. And so that's a special connection. That's kind of a unique way to follow that season, which ended obviously the best way possible.
That's really awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun, and thanks for sharing your baseball story.
No problem. I appreciate it.
All right, and we are back with Spencer from San Jose. He joins us. Spencer, how you doing? Thanks for sitting down and taking the time to talk and giving us the opportunity to hear your baseball story. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no problem, Steven. Thanks for having me on. Baseball is basically everyone that's on this podcast that's gonna be in this episode or in the episodes you had in the past. Everyone loves baseball. That's basically why we're all here. And honestly, you can thank Twitter, the SF Giants Twitter for that. So I think that's the best baseball Twitter there is. SF Giants. It's most known in my opinion. So yeah.
I happen to agree with that. And I really don't know a lot of the other teams' Twitter accounts or a lot of the others. I do get a little bit of 49ers Twitter and a little bit of Warriors Twitter on my timeline, but I think the Giants fans have genuinely been the most knowledgeable about their team and about the sport. And you happen to be one of them that I see pop up every now and then. So Spencer, first things first, how did you get into baseball? And, tell us that story.
I don't remember exactly how I got into baseball, like the exact moment, but I remember like the earliest memory I have is being in T-ball as a kid. And funny enough, I was on the Dodgers and my dad was the coach of that baseball team. And to have him coach a T-ball team was like one of the worst things he could ever imagine. It's like my son's playing for the Dodgers on his first ever vision of baseball. Like, this sucks. Like when we did the team picture, he had a Giants jersey on. It's like, this is hilarious. But that was the first time I remember getting into baseball itself was T-ball. As I was, I think, 5 or 6 at the time. Not sure.
Were you just an absolute stud as a T-baller? Were you just like tearing it up?
The only kid in my team, and I think in the league that didn't need a T. I don't know how I didn't need a T. I just remember just them like tossing it and like hitting it and stuff. I was like, how the hell do I do this without a T? But I guess I was that big of a player to have no T on it.
So, damn, so you were that good.
Yeah, it's like I'm probably advanced for what I was doing. Like no T, no training, nothing. It's like just go out there and hit it. Which I guess I had good hand-eye coordination to do it. So
how far did your baseball career end up going?
Up until age, I think 8. So probably 3 years because I did 2 years catching after my my little league T-ball stuff. And that completely tore up my knees as a kid. And I have something that's common for, I guess, catchers if you're young is it's a disease that makes your knee like, what's it called? Like it doesn't grow the right way. So your knees just eat up that stuff. And that's where it just ended. And I started doing football after that. So 3 years, 2 years catching, 1 year T-ball. So yeah.
And I played baseball too. And I think when you play, you get kind of a unique insight into, how the game works and, the different aspects of it that make it so popular. So I'm going to ask you this. Football, NBA, hockey, even to some people, they're all very popular, and baseball in a lot of people's eyes has kind of taken a step back. But yeah, let's play some devil's advocate here. Spencer, what would be your argument that baseball is not dying and baseball is in a good place, and why is it different from some of the other sports?
It's I don't know. There's people that do not know the inside of baseball, like the analytics and all that stuff. Like, oh, I see a 90-inning game, it's boring as hell. Like all that stuff. Like the best thing about baseball is how strategic it is. Like I'm not a big strategic guy, but like knowing my way around it, and that's what people don't like is that it's complex. But baseball is not dying. I think baseball is legit staying where it should be at. It's not America's game anymore because you have people playing football, basketball, hockey. I think it's because it's simpler and all that stuff. People just with attention spans nowadays, I think people gravitate towards something that's easy to learn, which is football, which I think is the highest sport in ratings the last 10 years. Then obviously basketball is up there as well next to it because it's as simple as shooting a basket and all that stuff. then probably baseball, then hockey, or maybe you can switch up to both. But I think baseball is the best sport out of the major four because there's so many little quirks to it that you can understand with it. So it's a game people should love, and kids should go out there. Like my thinking with it is, I don't want my kids having concussions as growing up. So when I have eventually kids, I want them to get in baseball, softball, whatever they want to do, not get their head bashed in with a helmet or that contact sport, like all that stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. And kind of a side question here. I mentioned that you're a San Jose guy, you're a big Giants fan. Did you ever go to any San Jose Giants games growing up, or do you still go to any of them?
Yes, their churros are good. So if you're ever in San Jose for anything, the churros are the best thing to have. They have a little bobblehead and they have Jersey nights with churros. But yeah, San Jose Giants. I try to go to see the newest stars. Like the last time I went to a San Jose Giants, Logan Webb was pitching. Now we all know what Logan Webb's doing now. So my full circle is happens the same night or this. Yeah, the first one I saw Buster Posey's first ever home run in the San Jose Giants organization. So I guess as a Giant. Then I watched his last home run as a Giant, which is in NLDS game 1 in SF. So I was there live for both of those, and seeing Logan Webb before he was the ace. Now I call him the ace. He's the ace of the Giants. I don't care if you think it's disco, but Logan Webb is the ace. And seeing him start game 1 to NLDS, that's full circle of San Jose Giants baseball, especially I live so close to it. So seeing both of those happen at once and knowing that I saw them grow into what they became or are becoming, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I went this past year and I was so intrigued by the beer batter. I don't know, the beer batter is just the most electric thing that happens at those games.
The beer batter, the smash for cash, the churro guy. There's a lot of that's what I like about minor league baseball. There's all these little things that you go there. It's not you see like you won't have a beer battle at like MLB stadiums at all, or a smash for cash in between innings. They have a lot of community stuff. Like the beer batter, that's awesome. Like I think it's like a $2 beer or half off beer if these beer batter strikes out. So basically, if people don't know San Jose Giants, the beer batter is basically if you strike out the beer batter, which could be, let's say Aaron Judge is the beer batter in retrospect. You can strike him out, beer's half off, or I think it's some days it's $1. So and if he strikes out, people just go right to the concession stands, get themselves a beer. That's basically what it is. And it's actually really nice. It sells well. There's shirts of it. There's hats of it. Like that became one of the major things of San Jose Giants. And there's a double batter, which you get like half off your double at In-N-Out, which I'm surprised that's actually there. But San Jose Giants have a lot of good aspects to it.
Yeah, can you imagine them doing that with 40,000 people running into the
they will lose so much money. You can do with like curly fries or at Giants, not curly fries, the garlic fries. You can do it.
Yeah. And half off beer at Oracle Park is still like $12.
My beers at NLDS game 1 was probably like a tall can was $20. Like this is not worth, like it's, you have to have it because you're eating and you want something to drink and cool down. So I get the marketing of it, but it's like $20 for a beer. Like, geez, you can stuff it in your pants and get it for free outside. So get it, like sneak it in.
Exactly. So I know you mentioned Posey and Webb. All time, do you have any favorite players that you watched that you watched play over the years? Anybody that kind of stands out?
So like I said, I try to go to see people in San Jose that are going to be stars. My favorite all-time baseball player, and I think we need to conversate about this and why he should be in the Hall of Fame, is Barry Bonds 100%. I would die on that hill why Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of things that you can put into it. Like even Mike Trout, if you put Mike Trout on the same cream or steroids that Bonds was using, he's still not going to hit as much home runs as Bonds because, one, he's injury prone, and then two, I don't think his hand-eye coordination is as good as Bonds. Bonds was off the meter or off legit. You can't have that good hand-eye coordination with steroids or whatever. Like anything in the zone that he had was already gone. One pitch a night, gone. And like you can't replicate what Bonds did. No matter if you think he used steroids or Bonds is 100% Hall of Famer no matter what. So I would die on that hill. That's the best player I've ever seen live. Yet I have to see Trout, which hopefully I can see him this season at Oakland. So
we are 2 for 2 in the Barry Bonds favorite player department. I grew up with him. I
I have a shelf in the back over here that's all Barry Bonds. I have all his Mark Farlands. The only things I don't have is an autographed jersey or autographed bat. I try to have those two side away, and I don't have the chickens that they used to give out at games.
Exactly.
I've been looking for that because that would be awesome for my Bonds shelf because I have aircraft baseball. I have patches, cards, all that stuff for Bonds because that was my hero growing up. And to this day, I just love the hell out of that guy.
So if you had the chance to meet Barry Bonds, what would you say to him?
Thank you for everything you've done for the game because good or bad, he's done a lot of I think he did a lot of good for the game. You can say that he did bad stuff for the game, like, oh yeah, steroids, it's good to use steroids. No, you see, people have been using that stuff for ages. Like Pudge did it, but like Bonds made everyone. I think he's better. I think he made it more of a ratings jump than McGuire and Sosa during their big baseball, their home runs in summer. Bonds made people watch. That's the thing. No matter what, and look at AT&T Park or Oracle Park. I'm sorry. Everything was sold out, and the McCovey Cove was this jam packed for people who want to see Bonds hit a splash hit. He made baseball really, really well. Like, and that's the thing about him not being the Hall of Fame. You can't tell baseball without Barry Bonds. 100%, you can't tell the story without him.
No, I happen to be in agreement with that, and we're actually going to bring him out right here on screen. Barry, no, I'm just kidding. I don't have him here.
I just fan and all that stuff. Like, oh my god, shaking. But like, I've been close to him to where I'm just like, I just won't just go up to him because he's busy with stuff. But like, anytime he's in like at any games at Oracle, standing ovation, and that shows how much a player can mean to a city. And I think there's the house that Junior built, which is the new Yankee Stadium. The house that Ruth built, what's the old one? I guess Fenway could be like Yastrzemski or I don't know, I forgot his name already. But I think Oracle Park, SBC, ABC Park, Pac Bell Park, that's what Bonds made it out to be. I think honestly they might have had the Cove out of the right field just for Bonds to hit splash hits. That could have been a nice way of, showing Bonds, hey, splash hits.
Just for him.
Which 35 of them, well, not anymore half, but like 35, man, that's a good number. And you don't even see that anymore. Like, I think Posey should have been counted for a splash hit, but that damn pillar got in the way. So
that would have been the first one by a right-handed hitter in the history of the ballpark.
And like, seeing that live is just seeing that ball carry him, just like, that better be a splash hit. But seeing it hit that little pillar, I was like, damn, it took it away from him.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's move on here. Do you have a favorite baseball movie that you go to? Maybe it's a Saturday night and you're thinking about watching a sports movie. What is the always go-to baseball movie?
There's one that I like because of the imagination of it is Little Big League. I thought that was, imagine being a kid and owning a baseball team and being the Twins and all that stuff. I think that one was a good one. And then the second one, I think, shows a really good purpose with it as well. A good story is Benchwarmers. So,
Yeah.
Like, it's a comedy, but if you look at the inside movie or the inside of that movie, it's like, let the kids play. Basically, what I guess MLB is marketing now, let the kids play, like, which is totally different. Like, let them like show off home runs and all that stuff. But like, it has a good meaning to it, and like, it's funny. That's the plus side. It's funny and it has a good story. That's what I like about Benchwarmers. Little Big League, like I said, a kid owning and managing a ball club like that. The Minnesota Twins at like their peak, which is like in the 90s, late 90s. And like, who wouldn't want to be a kid owning a baseball team? Like, that would be awesome to do.
Would absolutely be awesome, yeah.
And then Moneyball, because I think I like to look at analytics like Moneyball. If he can get on base without having hits, have him on. Like, I'm a big believer of that in fantasy baseball, where I just do Moneyball stuff. Like, oh, he has a lot of walks. It's like Brandon Belt. Brandon Belt's a perfect example for getting on base without hitting the ball. And like, he draws walks. Drawing walks is perfect. Belt's big at that. Some people don't like Belt. I like Belt because he draws walks. He's on base. Like, this last season, he was doing really well at doing that. But like, I can understand like not the resentment, but the defense on why they don't like Belt and stuff. But those three are my top three to go to if I have them laid down.
All great movies, all fan. And Benchwarmers is one that I hope I hear more of as I'm doing this. So
I'm pretty sure you got a lot of Field of Dreams, which I had never seen Field of Dreams. There's probably a lot of Sandlots.
Major League.
Major League is fun, but like it's not like a kids movie though. Like obviously when you look at baseball, you want to think like, oh yeah, kid movies. You think of those
You
three.
can't watch
Sandlot.
that with the kid. No.
No, you can't even watch most like Bo Durham with was it Bull Durham? The
Yeah.
one with Selleck. Like you can't. I think you can. Was it Selleck? No,
Kevin
somebody-
Costner.
There we go. Selleck's Mr. Baseball. I think that's the one. Another good one, an underrated one, Mr. 3000.
Bernie Mac.
Rest in peace to the great Bernie Mac. That's another good baseball movie, and people don't tend to realize it that it's like there. It's like that's another underrated one. That's top 5 for me. Mr. 3000's in top 5. Really, really good movie, and it shows like because I'm a big character guy, it shows his changing character halfway through the movie. So yeah, that's definitely up there. Sandlot and Mr. 3000 are up there as top 5.
Definitely. You and I will make it a date to go watch Benchwarmers together.
I'm highly down. I'm definitely down to do that. Get some popcorn and don't hate me, but please do not bring garlic fries. Those things suck.
That is a perfect transition into my next question about ballpark food. So you're sitting at a baseball game. Obviously, garlic fries, you're not a big fan of those?
No, not at all. And people are gonna hate me for this. I don't like the pizza. Pizza's too thin and greasy. I'm a big nachos guy. Nice little nachos with the salsa, and like that's my go-to. Like I'm there, sitting the bleachers, nachos is the first thing I get. Anywhere in the ballpark, I just get nachos. There's good hot dogs too, but like I'm more of a nacho guy. That gets me filled up for a game. That gets me settled for a couple innings or two, and then nachos, and then a nice. Whatever if they have a souvenir cup, I always get that with a Coke, or if they don't, let's get beer or something. That's basically my point of what I do at a ball game.
You ever bring food in, or you bring? Because I know a lot of people do that too.
I have done in the past, yes, because I have side pockets. Like they're not really cargo pants or tactical pants, so they kind of hide stuff. So I can hide in like sodas and stuff, and they won't even care. So I hide in sodas. I hide in snacks all the time. So I'm not gonna pay that price.
And finally, we'll end it on this. So many moments have happened in baseball that you've witnessed, not just in person, but also as a fan in general. What is kind of some of your favorite baseball moments that you remember?
Seeing Posey's last home run as a Giant in the NLDS, and I know you weren't there because I think you were telling Tyler about it, or Taylor, yeah. I butchered his name. I'm sorry. The Mr. 22nd K.
Yeah, Tyler Hall. Yep.
Tyler. Okay, Tyler. And I know you were telling him that you weren't going to be the NLDS, and honestly, that being there for Game 1, because I bought tickets before the Dodgers were announced, or the one they won this wild card. Because like the Dodgers win, prices will go up, so I'd rather just get it now and then. Who cares who they play? But being there for Game 1, seeing Posey's home run, and this hearing everybody this rise, like if that had a roof on that stadium, it'd be blown off. But that atmosphere of that game was just. You had to be there to witness it. It's like one of those things, like it's like goosebumps kind of thing. And seeing that live was amazing. I think another one was in 2014, Ishikawa's walk off for the pennant. I realized or saw on TV, I was like, oh my god, that's what makes baseball. Seeing those moments like that, and then all time for a moment, you could probably agree with this. 756. Seeing that on TV, seeing the history like that, you won't see anybody do that anymore. You don't see people hit 750 home runs. You almost had A-Rod do it, but I don't. Well, A-Rod's retired now, but those three are up there for Giants related. And as also a Red Sox fan, seeing Machado get striked out by Sale in 2018 games in the World Series, that was
against the Dodgers too. So
against the Dodgers,
yeah,
and like from 2010 to 2020, the scene, I think it was 5 championships between my teams, and it's just seeing the Dodgers strike out in the World Series against one of my second favorite teams. Like, yes, and they still don't have a real championship. I'm sorry, actually, they don't have a real season championship.
You gotta go way back, 30 years back.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like you have 60 games, like. The reason why they didn't repeat is because they had to do 162 games. They faced teams like the Giants and all that stuff. But yeah, those three are top 3 for me. Bonds, Ishikawa, and Seton Posey hit the last home run ever as a Giant. As a Giant.
Yeah, man, and that division series in 2021 against the Dodgers, that was a rough series to have off. I would have been there, but I had to take it off.
Well, game one, was electric. That was where I was just like, oh my god, this is just awesome. I never been to a playoff game. Being in the first ever Giants and Dodgers playoff game in history, I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. Like, I don't know if you've been to games. I don't know how long you've been working for the Giants as a writer, but that being there for that was just mind blowing. That
Yeah,
atmosphere,
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. I do still, my inbox have the credentials because I was scheduled to work if they moved on to the championship series and the World Series.
I would honestly frame that stuff, or if you could like frame it,
like a print it out. Yeah,
print it out, frame it. It's like I could have been to the Giants LCS against the Braves.
Yeah,
but
what could have been?
What could have been, and it just this is a sad way to end a 107 game series or 107 game win for a season, which is the highest they ever had. But I think the way the playoff structure is sucks. You can't have the top two baseball teams face off in the division series. You have to face them off the championship series. Best of 7. That's my opinion. Not
I agree.
5, because that doesn't give ratings. Yeah.
1000%. Yeah, I think you got to reseed.
Giants baseball, man. That torture. Yeah, 1000%. Like you have to have the two like top teams face off in the championship series. That's how ratings will go. I hate when people say that like baseball's rigged. It's not rigged. If it was rigged, there'd be a lot different stuff happening within plays. But you can't rig baseball. I mean, you can probably throw games with like your pitchers and all that stuff, but you can't rig it. I say it's improbable, but yeah, it's no chance you can rig baseball.
Nope. Baseball is an unmovable object. Spencer, man, I appreciate the time. This was a lot of fun. And thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I hope whenever this episode comes out, people see it and be like, oh yeah. And you're doing a great job as doing your podcast on YouTube. I know you got some Dave Drecke got it. Rennell's on here. Like this is an honor to be on this podcast stuff. So yeah.
Well, I'm honored to have you and others like you who want to tell their baseball story. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, on to the next. All right, we are back with another baseball fan joining the show. It is Matt Hartley Jr. From Toledo, Ohio. Matt, how you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing good, Steven. I'm going to probably call you Steven more than I traditionally do because, as you know, we obviously have a mutual friend. And one of your first guests, Steven Ruderman, I usually just acknowledge you guys by your last name. But for this instance, I'll probably just call you Steven.
Steven, that completely works. We're good with Steven.
I don't know why. Why would I do such a thing? I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, in high school, it was not known as Steven. It was all Rizzo. So that's kind of where RizzoCast came from. That was the nickname in the classroom. That was the nickname on the baseball field. And it's kind of stuck. So
I just usually call you Risotto just because to distance you from Ruderman. But even when he's not even in the room, like when another friend of ours, when it's just me, you, and Kyle Foster, I just still call you Risotto just because it's the habit, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But I appreciate you coming on, man. And we're going to be talking a lot of baseball here, and you're going to be sharing your baseball story. So first and foremost, I presented the question, how did people get involved in the game? And I think that's a type of thing that we are witnessing right now. Is I think more young people are getting involved in baseball, whether it be playing or becoming a fan. So I'm going to ask you the same question. How did you get involved in the game, and what is kind of your baseball background?
Well, I don't have like the biggest memory in terms of background of baseball, but the thing I can probably just easily remember is maybe I just flipped on a game or it was on TV when I was younger and just started watching it from there. I didn't get like into it from my parents, because even though they enjoy it to a point, but I didn't really get into it in terms of like handed a baseball or a bat or even a glove as a kid. I just probably just watched the game and just started enjoying it like I do many other sports. As you know, I'm a huge sports nut regardless of the sports. And so that's a lot of them really got started. Football, I know that's a different obviously, but football and racing, the one I love the most, those were probably because of my parents. Baseball and others, I just got attached to me on my own, even though my parents do enjoy it, but this just didn't get brought into my life like the others did.
And you're a diehard Tigers fan, is that right?
Correct.
How did that become?
That's because, well, in football I like Pittsburgh, but in terms my parents just, I guess, put in my mind, and I'm fine with it. I've been fine with it. Never root for anything Cleveland. Now, granted, I do root for Ohio State when it comes to some collegiate stuff, but in terms of, professionally, I don't root for anything Cleveland, not even in, basketball or anything. I don't. And so I would say Detroit would probably stuck with me when I don't remember exactly the age, but when I was probably about 10, maybe or so, 10, 11 or so, I realized that the farm system that the Detroit Tigers have is here in Toledo. And so the Toledo Mud Hens, and yes, in case anybody doesn't realize, that is a real team out there. Even though some people for a long time, it's another story in its own right about how it could be fake and why people thought it was fake. But yeah, I just heard that Toledo was attached with Detroit, and so I just decided I don't root for anything Cleveland, so why not? And my parents really, like I said, they were big baseball fans, even though they kind of like the Pirates, but I decided to go with the Tigers.
So you live in Ohio, right? And so how far are you from Cleveland? Why is that like such off limits to not root for Cleveland
Well,
teams?
I'm about given the distance, depending on which way you go, I'm about 2 hours from Cleveland and about an hour from Detroit.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so but the biggest reason is my late paternal grandfather, when he was just trying to figure out a football team to root for, because he liked the colors that the Steelers had. So, and he didn't like the ones that the Browns had, so he just chose them. And like I said, that's how I ended up stuck with Detroit, because I just decided my cats and trying to get away. But anyhow, but yeah, so yeah, I just decided to root for Detroit because, like I said, their attachment, and like I said, it is only about an hour, and Cleveland is only 2, give or take or so, depending on how quick you go. Obviously, if you go a certain direction, one way or other along the lake. But yeah, so Detroit's closer, and it's obviously, I think, been better for the most part as a fan. Sometimes, obviously, like any team that you have rooting interest in.
Yeah, it's been a while since the Tigers have, been relevant, but I do think that they're trending upwards. And I do want to bring this up. In 2012, the Giants, because
Yes.
I'm a San Francisco guy, the Giants swept the Detroit Tigers in 4 games in the World Series, and Miguel Cabrera is still looking for that Sergio Romo slider.
Yes, he is. He's still trying to find it almost a decade later. Is Steven likes to bring up it from pretty much every time we talk, no matter what platform it is that we talk on, and no matter who else is around, but in particular when it's me, the lone Tiger fan, generally, and him, and along with other Giants fans, including the couple of guys that we've mentioned, and maybe others, but along the way. But yeah, he likes to bring that up with.
God, that's been 10 years. 10 years. Time flies.
It does. It really does. It doesn't even seem like it. Sometimes it does because of how bad the Tigers have been towards the end of the 2010s and then the start to 20s. But at other times, it just feels like when you just talk about it with you, it just seems like it was just yesterday. Like, man, how did that even happen?
Yeah, it definitely does feel. I was in 5th grade when that happened. I'll never forget it. It's pretty crazy.
Removed from high school.
Yeah, no, exactly, 100%. So what kind of makes baseball different from some of the other sports? I know you mentioned you like racing, which is a very individually based sport,
Yes.
and football is very popular in the ratings. Why is baseball kind of unique?
I would say it's unique because it's pace, and I know that a lot of people will say that, but it's the truth because the pace is much different. Just look at the Yankees and Red Sox, for example. They'll play 4.5 hours when sometimes any other game is sometimes 3.5. That's the one thing I've never really understood. Other than, yeah, they have a rivalry with each other, but look at all the other rivalries out there. The Giants, your Giants with the Dodgers, or my Tigers with now the Cleveland Guardians. Why? Sometimes games do go longer, but it just seems like the Yankees Red Sox, that one takes up the longest, and for whatever reason I've never understood. But yeah, it's clearly the pace more than anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the pace and the fact that you could sit down on a weeknight and turn on a baseball game and kind of have it on while you're doing some other stuff. I think it's just a really soothing experience, for sure. And in terms of favorite players, I've asked a few people this, and a lot of San Francisco people so far have answered. But I'm interested to get your take. Do you have any all-time favorite Major League Baseball players, maybe that you grew up watching, that you currently watch? Anybody that stands out?
I've enjoyed, as a Tiger fan, of course, Cabrera. That's well obvious. But outside of the Tigers, I enjoyed watching Jeter play when he was playing. I never had really had a reason for it other than just the way he would swing the bat, the way he would move around on the field, just something about it. I don't know what other than that, just because maybe it's just so obvious, but just this talent that he had was unique, I guess, to a certain extent. I don't know other than that.
Yeah, and he was definitely an icon. He was someone who embodied what it what a baseball player was supposed to be like, was supposed to act like, and he did it on the biggest stage in the biggest city in the biggest market. So,
Right. And the thing is, too, I don't remember it, but when the Yankees AAA affiliate was down in Columbus, which is about 2.5 hours from where I am, it's our biggest rival in Toledo. He would play against the Mud Hens, and when the Columbus Clippers would play. And like I said, I don't remember it, but I've heard the stories from the local broadcasters and just reading about it, which is just crazy. And it's unfortunate he never got to play the downtown part, but that's just the nature. I mean, who wants to stay in AAA forever? Not everybody or anybody really. Nobody ever really does, but sometimes that does happen. I mean, it's just the nature of the game for sure.
yeah, and those stories of guys passing through minor league systems
Oh,
is quite amazing. I feel like we're gonna get I've gotten it already. I feel like we're gonna get a lot of minor league connections here. Um, and that's great because I think a lot of baseball fans are made at the minor league level.
oh yeah.
So the next thing I want to get into is favorite baseball movie, Matt. I know you're also very enriched in different entertainment
I
different
am, but I don't
entertainment
know about what
happenings.
movie per se. I never really have a favorite movie. I'll watch one, like, I just never really got into. I get into movies, but I never, like, say, got into, say, a favorite baseball movie. I've seen a couple of them, but if you would have said, like, which one's that, I'd be clueless. I'd be really clueless on you.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about favorite food, favorite ballpark food? Because I know when
Food,
you go to a baseball game, maybe go to a Toledo Mudheads game, like what are you ordering for dinner that night? I mean, it has to be something that is unique that you can't get anywhere else. What are you ordering?
well, there was thing that they had a burger and macaroni and cheese together,
Oh,
and that was really good. But one of my favorite things, like, is for a sweet treat, is like, I know a lot of places have done this a lot recently here, is to put ice cream in a little mini helmet, and so that's always fun to eat. A little mini Sunday ice, yeah, something like that. I was trying to find mine that I have, but yeah, they done that, and that's always fun to have.
yeah, no, for sure. And there's so many good options at baseball games, and they're all so pricey that I
Oh,
feel like if you had a budget of like infinity, I think you could hit them all, and you could,
oh yeah, sure,
the
exactly.
options are pretty endless. So we'll end it here on favorite baseball moment. So if there's any moment that sticks out to you in your baseball fandom, what would it
Well,
be?
to go, let's see it. Going back, it's probably when the Tigers won the ALCS way back in 2006 against Oakland. I don't remember every little detail, but I just distinctly remember how, they were getting to the World Series, and only a month beforehand, the Mud Hens had made to and won their league title. So I was like, damn, this is amazing. And I probably didn't say damn as a 13. Well, maybe, I don't know. I might have, I don't remember. But I was just so blown away that, Mud Hens had just won the league championship for themselves, and now Tigers have got a chance. This is amazing. I didn't know if I would ever, it's one of those things that you didn't know if you'd ever see it. And then, talk about moments that I really did enjoy. Obviously, the 2010 Detroit Cleveland, Mello. I always try to pronounce his name correctly. And then Garlargo, help me
Yeah,
out here.
Armando Galarraga. Yeah.
Armando Galarrago's perfect game that he should have had. And what's crazy about this, and I was telling you about this a couple of days ago in preparation for this, the umpire that missed that call, he grew up right here in Toledo, way before, of course, me. But I didn't have any idea about that until they brought it up on the news. Oh yeah, and how Jim Joyce grew up in Toledo and went to this high school. I can't remember the high school, but grew up, and I was like, geez, what are the odds of that and everything. But I have one moment in terms of a fan that has nothing to do with the Tigers, and I think it's probably one of the favorite of a lot of baseball fans that had no interest was the 2011 World Series Game 6 with the Cardinals and the Rangers. Just the way that game was back and forth. I mean, it's insane the way that went. And I had no idea about when Joe Buck made that infamous call about "see you tomorrow night" was in addition to his father, his late father, who had made that call almost 20 years prior, which I had no idea about that until somebody had mentioned that to me. I'm like, oh wow, what are the odds of that? Something like that. Of all these times he could have used it, and his dad had been gone for a good few years, but they had never used it until then. So I always thought that was something special for sure.
That was an incredible game, one of the top games that I've ever seen, and anybody who watched that will say the same thing. And everybody that kind of goes down in Rangers history too, because that was their second straight World Series appearance, and they couldn't tie the knot on it. Nelson Cruz went back to the warning track, and he was playing shallow to begin with, and it would have ended the game, and it went off the wall. David Freese had the triple, and then David Freese with the walk-off home run. And then, as you mentioned, the Joe Buck call is legendary. "We will see you tomorrow night." And it still gives me goosebumps. I go and watch it every now and then to this day.
2 years since then.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's crazy that that's been 10 years. And of course, David Freese is bowed down to in St. Louis Cardinal Nation because of that moment.
Oh yeah, definitely was just how close the Rangers got. And then, yeah, granted, they had to win one of the games on the road, which obviously, no matter what type of environment it is, whether it's the regular season or postseason, especially the postseason, but to win it in the World Series on the road wasn't going to be easy. But just they got so close and they missed opportunities in that game 6. And from what I can remember, you have better memory on it. Wasn't game 7 like nowhere near close? Like it was just the Cardinals just lit up the show.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
They were like, yeah, well, you decided to play game 7. You wanted to play game 7. Well, we'll show you game 7.
Exactly. 100. Well, the Tigers, they're going to come close too. I know they've come close a few times, Cabrera taking strike 3 call. But it's going to come in the future. They have a lot of young talent, so there's a lot to look forward to in Detroit.
Let's hope so, for my sake, and all the Tiger fans out there hope so, at least, because I mean, the latter part of, like I said, the 2010s were just brutal to watch, and because you don't want your team to lose, but just when you see it happen so often, what do you think's going to happen next? You don't want it to happen, but how much more can you expect?
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Matt,
it changed so much after so many times too.
Yeah, baseball is just a complete it's different every season, and I think that's what's different about it as well. From season to season, there's players that are different, there's teams that are different, and the rules that sometimes could be different. So definitely a lot to look forward to. And Matt, I really appreciate you coming on. This was so much fun. And I know you're a avid listener of RizzoCast, and I really appreciate that. So I want to personally thank you for that. But I appreciate you coming on and spending some time to talk.
Oh yeah, no problem. And I'd love to talk more about other things with you I'm always open for it. You know that.
Absolutely. I will take you up on that. All right, guys. Again, more baseball fans to come. Thank you for listening.